Okay, so I want you to picture this. You own a house, you take care of the lawn, pay your mortgage, all that stuff.
Right.
Now imagine your neighbor across the street, who also happens to be your cousin, suddenly announces they're building this massive extension,
Okay.
like a home theater, a pool, even a helipad, the works.
A helipad. That's ambitious. I'm not sure about the zoning on that.
Yeah, bear with me. But here's the thing. You didn't spend a dime. You didn't lay a single brick, but suddenly your property value shoots up.
Ah, I see where you're going.
Just because you're related and you're on the same block, hold that feeling, because that's exactly what we're unpacking today. Only, we're not talking about real estate.
We're talking about the stock market.
Exactly, a phenomenon called spillover effects. We're looking at this amazing piece of research that asks, when one company goes on a shopping spree, a big merger and acquisition, does it boost the stock of other companies just because they're in the same business family?
It's a fantastic question. And to answer it, we're diving into a really rigorous academic study from the Indian market. They looked at a huge data set. I think it's nearly 4,000 M&A announcements.
4,000.
Yeah, between 2017 and 2021. And they were trying to see if these, family ties in business actually change how investors behave.
So what's the mission here? I mean, are we just looking at stock prices moving together, or is there something bigger going on?
Oh, it's much bigger. The mission is really to reveal the hidden wires of the corporate world.
Hidden wires, I like that.
Yeah. I mean, here in the West, we tend to think of companies as these individual islands, Apple is Apple, Google is Google.
Fighting for their own turf.
Exactly. But this study suggests that, especially in a market like India, investors aren't just looking at the island, they're looking at the whole archipelago. We're trying to see if a move by, say, Tata Steel sends a ripple that actually moves the needle for a totally different company, but one that's still in the Tata groove.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Before we get to the ripples, we have to understand the pond itself. The study talks a lot about business groups. For those of us not reading financial papers every day, what exactly is a business group?
Right. Think of a business group, or a BG, as a sort of corporate tribe.
A tribe?
Yeah, it's a network of legally independent firms. So they have their own stock tickers, their own CEOs, their own boards.
But they're connected somehow.
They're bound together by formal equity, so they own shares in each other, and also by informal social ties. They share resources, reputation, capital, the whole 9 yards.
So in this study, how many are we talking about?
In this particular data set, the researchers identified 43 distinct business groups.
And can you give us some names? Are these household names?
Oh, absolutely. The study highlights the real heavy hitters. You got Tata, Reliance, Mahindra, Aditya Birla, Bajaj.
So the giants.
The giants. And they usually have what's called an apex firm, which sort of coordinates the strategy for the whole family.
The head of the table. Got it. But why India? What is it about the Indian market that makes these groups so important? I mean, we have conglomerates here too.
We do, but they function a bit differently. India is the perfect lab for this because of two things. One, explosive growth, and two, something economists call institutional voids.
Institutional voids. That sounds a little scary.
It sounds worse than it is. It really just means gaps in the normal business infrastructure.
Gaps? Like what?
Well, in a developed market, if you need a loan, there are 1,000 banks ready to give you one. If you need a skilled manager, the labor market is deep. In emerging economies, especially a few decades ago, those external markets, they weren't as reliable.
So it was harder to get things done if you were on your own.
Exactly. And that's where business groups come in. They create their own internal market. Can't get a loan from a bank. Your sister company can wire you the funds. Need a manager you can trust. You pull one from another part of the group.
So it's like a built-in support system. Makes a lot of sense.
Precisely. And in a market that's grown like crazy, India's M&A activity has been growing at something like 70% annually.
Yeah.
That kind of speed and internal trust is a massive advantage.
Okay, so that sets the stage. Now, let's get to the core of it. The first big hypothesis, the ripple effect.
Right. Hypothesis 1.
So the question is, Company A in the group says, hey, we're buying this other company. Does Company B, the sibling, who's just minding its own business, does its stock price move?
And the verdict from the study is a huge, resounding yes.
Really?
Yes, they confirmed it. There's a statistically significant spillover effect. The market reacts to the sibling firms, even though they have nothing to do with the actual deal.
That's fascinating. So just being related is enough to get a bump. But is it a good bump or a bad bump?
A great question. because you can imagine it going either way.
For sure. If my cousin gets arrested, that's not helping my reputation.
Exactly, the fear of contagion.
Right.
But what the study found, and this was their second hypothesis, is that the positive spillovers are much, much stronger than the negative ones.
So the market is cheering for the whole family.
It is. And this gets us into something called signaling theory.
Okay, break that down for me. What signal is being sent?
It's pretty straightforward. Investors hate uncertainty. An M&A announcement is a powerful signal that says, we have cash, we have a plan, we are growing.
And because they're all connected?
Because they share resources, investors assume that if one brother is doing well, that health, that cash, that knowledge is going to flow to the other brothers.
It's the halo effect.
It is the halo effect, precisely. And there's a behavioral side to it, too. Investors use mental shortcuts, right? Heuristics. They don't analyze every single company separately. They see the group as one big thing.
Like seeing one player on a team score a goal and assuming the whole team's on fire.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, so before we get to the really wild stuff, and I know there are some big surprises coming, how do we actually know this? I mean, a stock price goes up for a million reasons. How do they prove it was the announcement?
You're right to be skeptical. You have to cut through the noise. The researchers used a method called cumulative abnormal returns, CR.
GR. Okay. Sounds fast.
It's more like noise-canceling headphones for the stock market.
I like that. Go on.
The whole market is noisy, right? It goes up and down based on global news, inflation. That's the background noise. Abnormal returns filters that out.
Oh.
They look at the general market index, the Bombay Stock Exchange in this case. If the whole market goes up 2% and your stock goes up 2%, well, that's just normal.
You get zero credit.
Zero credit. But if the market is totally flat and your stock jumps 5% right after your sibling announces a deal, that 5% is the abnormal return.
Ah, so it mathematically isolates the cousin effect.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And they look at an 11-day window, 5 days before, 5 days after.
Why before the announcement?
Because markets leak. Rumors get out. Prices can start moving before the official press release. This way they capture the whole reaction. And remember, the scale here is huge. It makes the findings really robust.
Okay, the math checks out. The halo is real. So, this is where it gets weird. Because you'd assume the details of the deal have to matter.
And so, who's buying? What are they buying?
Exactly. And the researchers had hypotheses about this. 3, 4, and 5 were all about drilling down into what makes the spillover stronger.
And this is where the study just put us. It completely upends conventional wisdom.
Let's start with hypothesis 3, the big boss. The idea that if the leading firm, the biggest, most powerful company in the group, makes the deal, the ripple should be huge.
That's the logical assumption. Centrality theory, they call it. The most central node has the most influence.
So if Tata Steel does something, everybody should notice. But if some smaller subsidiary does, maybe not so much.
That's the theory. But the data,
Maybe yes.
nothing. No significant
Oh,
difference.
it's really.
Not at all. The spillover was just as strong when a smaller, non-leading firm made the announcement.
That's bizarre. So a junior member of the family has just as much influence on the family's reputation as the head of the household.
In the eyes of the market, apparently yes. And this implies that the group identity is just so powerful that any sign of life, even from a smaller player, is seen as a sign of the whole group's health.
Wow. So it's not about who's driving the car, just that it's a Tata car.
Exactly. And if you think that's strange, wait till we talk about what they're buying.
Ah, industry relatedness. Hypothesis 4. Now, this one I would bet on if a steel company buys another steel company.
The other metal companies in the group should react the most.
Of course. There are synergies. You can share resources, knowledge. You can't share iron ore with the hotel branch of the family.
And you would have lost that bet.
Of course I would have. This makes no sense.
The study found no significant difference there either. The spillover hit unrelated industries in the group just as hard.
So if a heavy manufacturing firm in the group buys something, the sibling company that makes, I don't know, tea bags, its stock goes up just as much?
In essence, yes. And this is a huge finding. It supports what they call the portfolio view. Meaning investors aren't betting on the specific industrial synergy. They're not thinking, oh, they can share a factory now. They're betting on the management. They're betting on the family.
They're betting on the jockey, not the horse.
Or maybe they're betting on the entire stable. They trust the stable master to take care of all the horses, no matter what race they're in.
The stable. I like that. Okay, one more surprise. Domestic versus international deals.
A cross-border question.
All right.
International deals are riskier. Different rules, different cultures. It's a headache. So you think the market reaction would be different?
Bolder, maybe? Or maybe more cautious.
One or the other, but not the same.
And, yet again, the data said no difference.
This is baffling. So the market just doesn't care.
It seems that way, and while the researchers call these non-results, a non-result is still a result, you know?
Right.
It tells us that for this market, the group brand just drowns everything else out. The who, the what, and the where seem to matter a lot less than the which family.
You see a company name, but the market sees a last name. That's it, exactly. And that's why this context is so important.
So let's zoom out to that context. We've been deep in India. How does this compare to, say, the US? You mentioned M&A is seen differently in developed markets.
It's a critical contrast. Here in the West, when a company announces they're buying someone else, what usually happens to the buyer's stock price?
It usually goes down, doesn't it? Or at least stays flat.
Often, yes. It's called the winner's curse.
Right, the winner's curse.
The market basically assumes that to win the deal, you probably overpaid.
Mm.
So investors in the company being bought, they make out great. But the acquirer's stock often takes a hit.
Because they just spent a ton of cash and took on all this risk.
Exactly. But in this study, we see positive returns for the acquirer and for the siblings.
So why is it a party in one market and a headache in another?
It comes back to that environment we talked about. High growth and institutional voids. In a developing market, M&A isn't just a strategy for efficiency. It's a tool for survival and rapid expansion. If you're not growing, you're dying. So the market cheers that aggression.
So in a mature market, buying someone looks like you're out of ideas. In a growth market, it looks like you're conquering new territory.
You've nailed it. It completely validates that institutional environment theory. The rules of the game are just different depending on where you're playing.
So let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway for someone listening to this? Why should they care about spillovers in Indian conglomerates?
I think the main lesson is you have to look beyond the individual stock ticker. In the world of business groups, and this isn't just India, it's South Korea, Brazil, other places too. No firm is an island.
You can't just analyze a balance sheet in a vacuum.
Absolutely not. If you own stock in a Tata company, you're also, in a way, invested in the strategies of the entire group. A win for one is treated like a win for all.
So you need to watch the whole family tree, not just the branch you're sitting on.
That's it. When you see a headline about a conglomerate making a big move, don't just scroll past because you don't own that specific stock.
Yeah.
If you own a sibling, that headline is about you too.
It really changes what due diligence means, doesn't it?
It adds a layer of complexity for sure. But it also presents an opportunity. If you understand these spillovers, you might be able to anticipate market moves that other people are missing. You're seeing the hidden wires.
I love that phrase, the hidden wires.
It's what it's all about.
Okay, so we're at the end of our deep dive. We've learned that in these business groups, the spillovers are real, they are mostly positive, and they are surprisingly blind to the details. The group identity is king.
It's a powerful statement about the value of reputation and shared resources in that kind of economy.
But I want to leave everyone with a final thought. We talked all about the halo effect, the rising tide lifting all boats, and the study showed that the positive effects are stronger. But
There's always a but.
if the market rewards the entire group for the actions of one member because it assumes resources are being shared, what happens when one member fails?
That is the big question, isn't it?
I mean, think about it. If the assumption is Company A has cash, so Company B is safe, what happens when Company A makes a terrible mistake or takes on way too much debt? Does that shared resource pool become a shared burden?
Does the halo become a noose?
Exactly. The study showed positive effects are stronger now in a growth period. But in a crisis, that shared reputation has to cut both ways.
The contagion effect is always the flip side of the coin. If the resources are shared, so are the risks. It's definitely something to think about.
Something to think about the next time you see one of those mega merger headlines. Check the family tree. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for exploring the hidden network with us.
A pleasure as always.
See you next time, and keep watching the neighbors.